everyone, thanks for joining us. You must have heard the saying that if you strike gold, dig it. And particularly if you strike black gold, you dig it. The business of digging the black gold has continued to preoccupy the faith, the life, and the economy of Nigeria since oil was discovered, and in the face of competitiveness, breathless technology, and profitability, it has and will continue to boil down to counting the cost. This has come to be the primus bottom line in the oil and gas business, even as the country continues to hold her position as Africa's largest oil producer, but at what cost? Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program, NUCOP, is about the best all-encompassing response to that cost question, along with a myriad of other factors, measures, strategies, etc. That's what's on the front burner this week, including other frontline issues in the segments like the deregulation, and it's high time we reason together on this. Plus, NNPC commits to upholding the tenets of Nigerian content in all its engagements with stakeholders. Group Managing Director Malam Mele Kyari visits Chief of Defense Staff on security of oil installations. Wait for the details. Thanks for joining us. I'm Akin Agbejile. This is Oil and Gas Forum.
No panic to buy fuel for black market. NNPC go bring fuel for all motorists.
NNPC say them get fuel jabrata for ground. So therefore, no buy black market, no do panic buying, and no fuel day we go round.
NNPC, we touch your lives in many positive ways.
The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Silva, has urged the oil-producing countries in Africa to comply with the production cuts agreed upon by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, OPEC+, in the interest of the global economy. Chief Silva made this appeal during a diplomatic shuttle to Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Congo-Brazzaville, and South Sudan. 2 weeks ago, OPEC announced the appointment of Nigeria's Chief Silva to act as its special envoy to the four countries. Chief Silva said the OPEC production cuts have led to the stability of crude oil prices. Chief Silva is expected to deploy Nigeria's credentials as a fully compliant member country to encourage the four nations to stay the course and abide by the cuts and the general principles of OPEC.
South Sudan has expressed their commitment to the agreed cuts and have agreed to cooperate with OPEC+.
The Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Lucky Irabor, has promised to galvanize the military to provide maximum security for the nation's oil and gas assets. The CDS gave the commitment at a meeting with the Group Managing Director of the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Malam Mele Kyari, and his top management team at the Defense Headquarters in Abuja. Speaking while receiving the GMD, General Irabor commended Malam Kyari for initiating the engagement, saying, quote, "I am delighted that you made this effort, and I tell you that the armed forces of Nigeria will collaborate with you to protect NNPC's assets." End of quote. General Irabor, who acknowledged the significant role of the oil and gas sector to the economy, said there was need for collaboration between the NNPC and the armed forces to protect oil and gas facilities, which he described as the critical national assets.
It's my intention to cooperate maximally with you and your team and to give the necessary instructions that will enable all officers within the leadership hierarchy of the armed forces to be of help to the NNPC, given that our resistance economically rests almost solely on the proceeds arising from your operations.
Speaking earlier, the NNPC GMD commended the security agencies for their support and called for more protection for NNPC's operational assets and personnel. He disclosed that though petroleum products theft on the System 2B pipeline has reduced considerably due to support from the security agencies, the nation was still losing about 200,000 barrels of crude oil daily to theft and vandalism.
We are very proud that we have cut down these losses in collaboration with the armed forces to level that around 20% to now less than 5%. This is very monumental. In terms of crude losses, the losses are still going on. In average, we are losing close to 200,000 barrels of oil every day.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has clarified that it complied with the Local Content Act in the award of the contract for the construction of Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano AKK gas pipeline project. NNPC Group Managing Director Malam Melekiare disclosed this at a hearing by the House of Representatives Committee on Local Content recently. Speaking at the hearing on a petition by the Local Content Advocacy Management Group LCAMG, the GMD, who was represented by the Chief Operating Officer Gas and Power Engineer Yusuf Usman, said the corporation, as a law-abiding corporate citizen, complied with all the terms of the Local Content Act and other relevant laws in awarding the contract for the AKK pipeline project.
Brentex has been able to mobilize with purely 100% local content, and the oil SAP has mobilized purely 100% local content. It is all, construction is all carried out by Nigerian people, Nigerian equipment and Nigerian content as we speak today.
Earlier, the chairman of the committee, Right Honorable Ligo Idagbo, has this to say.
We will protect our local contractors and ensure that they get the best deal out of any investment in the country.
Nigeria, unarguably Africa's largest oil producer, is endowed with numerous natural resources and potentials. Today, the oil and gas sector is one of the most important sectors in the nation's economy, accounting for over 90% of the country's exports and 80% of the federal government's revenue. With reserves of approximately 37 billion barrels of crude oil and 203 trillion cubic feet of gas, the country is yet to maximize its potentials, as most of these vast resources were discovered with basic exploration technologies and efforts. Therefore, there remains vast untapped opportunities in the Nigerian oil and gas terrain, with newer technologies in deeper horizon. There is need for Nigeria to unlock its untapped potentials in order to sustain production for the next 40 years for oil and 60 years for gas at current production rates as projected by experts. This implies that if something is not done urgently, the country's sustainability and energy security will be challenged. Despite Nigeria's vast resources and potentials, the oil and gas industry is confronted with high cost of operations. Also, with the ongoing global coronavirus pandemic, the industry has experienced significant pressures over the past year. It is clear that the oil and gas industry is going through one of its most transformative and difficult periods in history, and Nigeria will have to revisit its strategies.
In line with the commitment of President Muhammad Buhari's administration to address these issues, Mr. President recently commissioned the National Oil and Gas Excellence Center in Lagos. We have also put in place an industry standing committee to monitor compliance with cost reduction directives.
Globally, Nigeria has been recognized as a high-cost oil-producing country. The unit operating costs have steadily increased over the past decade. Human resource services, logistics services, and direct handling costs have been identified as the major cost drivers that constitute 70% of the total unit operating cost. In addition, the upstream cost structure, especially the joint venture operations, is distorted. The operating expenditure is almost double capital expenditure. Operating expenditure sustains present operations, while capital expenditure ensures the future of the business. This means that the industry is allocating more funds towards sustaining the present at the expense of the future.
First, as we all know what's happening around energy transitions and the things that are happening globally, the choices that our consumers have, the choices that investors have across the world, there is nowhere in the world where a less cost-efficient operator can survive. So it's not possible anymore.
This raises the need for the country to invest sufficiently to secure the future of the oil and gas industry by allocating more funds to capital expenditure. The future of the industry will be in jeopardy if the operating cost is not reduced drastically. A 50% reduction in operating expenditure OPEX can yield up to a 100% increase in profitability. Furthermore, the high cost of operations in Nigeria's oil and gas industry makes it uncompetitive amongst its peers. This reduces profitability and impedes the country's ability to attract investments. This is responsible for the inability of many operators in the industry to meet shareholders' expectations.
They all need to work together to find a way to make the industry more efficient and more cost effective. I think some ideas about shortening the contracting cycle, I think is very important. Lengthening the duration of contracts as well, I believe, would really help to drive efficiency.
Underlying all these costs, the market is plagued with protracted contracting cycle of an average of 18 months, multiplicity of technical evaluation, distorted cost structure. These tend to erode investors' confidence and increase OPEX. To achieve the presidential mandate of a 6-month contracting cycle, Nigeria must put measures in place to remedy the current situation.
But when you look at that, there are two sides to that. There's cost and there's production. So we must make sure that for every dollar we spend, we get more value for it. And what is that value? It's the production we make.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, under the leadership of Malam Mele Kyari, has launched the Nigerian Upstream Cost Optimization Program, NUCOP. This is in line with the presidential directive to reduce the unit operational cost of production per barrel to $10 per barrel.
Cost of production, the operating cost has gone down substantially since the start of the agenda that you asked us to deliver. And our target is to come to a unit operating cost of at a maximum of $10 to the barrel. And this is possible, this is within sight.